You know what I got in front of me here? My national championship prediction. Like, this is a big deal. It's 7:20 p.m. on this Thursday night, August 21st, and we're looking ahead to January. What, like the second or third week in January? So let me remind you, the other night, I already picked my conference winners. So we don't have to laboriously kind of weave our way through the weeds there. Conference winners, I picked Penn State over Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. And good for James Franklin, by the way. Let's just pause. If they do that, is that the big one? Well, it's a big one, immunity. But is that the big one? I don't know. I got to let Penn State fans decide on that. We took Alabama over Texas in the SEC championship game. Took Clemson over Georgia Tech in the ACC championship game. And Kenny Dillingham keeps his staff intact. Joey McGuire goes and gets a whole new team from the portal, basically. Arizona State over Texas Tech. That would be a rematch of a regular season game. Arizona State wins the Big 12. Back-to-back Big 12 champs. Hasn't happened in like half a decade. So then the at-larges. Here's how we see the entire thing seeded out. So your 1, 2, 3, and 4, this is important to note, would be Penn State, Bama, Texas, and Oregon. Those are the 4 teams that get the byes. That was not the case last year. Remember, that sounds jacked up because you say, whoa, wait. So it's just SEC and Big Ten teams that got the byes? How's that work? That's how it would have worked last year with these rules, guys. They changed the rules. The rules last year where you had to be a conference champ to get a first-round bye. Now it's just the top 4 seeds get the first-round byes. Last year, the top 4 seeds were the Big Ten and SEC champ and the Big Ten and SEC runner-up. So I'm just projecting that to be the case again this year. Your 5 through 12, these are your at-larges. I had Clemson at 5, Notre Dame at 6, Ohio State at 7. I have Florida in the playoff at 8. I have Georgia there at 9. Basically, the outcome of that head-to-head game probably flips that seeding. I got Arizona State at 10. I have Nebraska at 11. Nebraska in the playoff. Yes, you heard me right. And Boise State as our G5 representative at 12. The games this creates, the games that this bracket creates in the first round would be ungodly, especially the first one. We would have the University of Georgia, led by Kirby Smart, going into Jacksonville? No, not Jacksonville. Going into Gainesville, Florida, to face Billy Napier and the Gators. I want you to close your eyes for a second unless you're driving. You know what? If you're driving, pull over to the side of the road. I really need your eyes closed. I insist on it. Press pause if you need to. Close your eyes for a second. And I want you to imagine the first week in December. And I want you to imagine the swamp where it's probably still 75, 80 degrees. Grass is still green. Groundskeepers have done a wonderful job there. And I want you to imagine 90,000 psychopaths who have seen Billy Napier go from fired by them to leading their team to the college football playoff, hosting a game against their bitter rival that they normally just meet in a 50-50 scenario, crowd split-wise, in Jacksonville. And here comes Georgia in those white jerseys, silver breeches, by the way, out of the tunnel at the swamp. You haven't seen it. You haven't seen it. If you're 24 years old, you've never seen that. Now, how does that go? How does that go? What kind of police escort does Georgia even need to get in there? How does that go? I got Georgia going in there and winning. Georgia's been there. Not to the swamp, per se, but Georgia's been there. They've been to the spot. They've been to the playoffs. That's a lot of newness for Florida. So I'm going to take Georgia going into the swamp and winning in the first round. I am going to take Clemson over Boise State, even though the Boise logo is on the bottom because that's how the bracket looks. That's a home game for Clemson. Clemson's not losing to Boise. They're not. If they do, you are talking about just a cataclysmic failure of opportunity not being grabbed by Dabo Swinney and his team, and they will not fail me. So they will win that game. We have got, Arizona State going to Ohio State. And, I mean, I don't know how you don't pick Ohio State. If Ohio State was good enough to make the playoff there, they're hosting a playoff game. It's cold weather. It's Arizona State going into cold weather. I'll take Ohio State to beat Arizona State, and I will take Nebraska going into South Bend, Notre Dame. Again, if Notre Dame's good enough to be in there, they've been there before. Like, they've got understanding of how this works. A lot of those A lot of those guys, staff, players that were there last year, they're probably just the better team there. I don't overthink the room on this. I want you to pause for just a second. If you're listening on podcast, you haven't even started to drive again because you're still on the side of the road. Open your eyes. No. Close them again. Yeah, close them again. I have what would be the Elite Eight in basketball, the quarterfinals in the college football playoff are in front of you right now. It is a sight to behold. If you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, Niagara Falls, seen Floyd of Rosedale, the trophy, some of the wonders of the world, this would be one. How many do we have? China was the 9th wonder of the world, the wrestler, not the country. So the 10th wonder of the world would be this. I want you, Tyler, don't even press go on it yet. I want to read the matchups. Georgia versus Penn State. At the same time, Oregon versus Clemson. At the same time, Ohio State versus Alabama. At the same time, Texas versus Notre Dame. Now, I didn't want to expand the playoff. But as I didn't want to expand the playoff, I said there's going to be some good that comes from the expanded playoff. That right there, over here, is some of the good that comes from the expanded playoff. Who or whomst will win these games? Hey, really quick timeout. We'll get right back to the video. Do me one favor. Make sure you're subscribed. It helps us keep the show free. It helps us keep the lights on. It helps us keep doing college football year-round, and we appreciate it. All right, back to the video. Give me Penn State over Georgia. Give me, I guess you want an explainer there. Well, the explainer is it's just total do-or-die time for Penn State. So that matchup feels like the Georgia-Notre Dame matchup last year in that going into it, I had no idea what the edges were. I actually picked Georgia to beat Notre Dame, and then Notre Dame whipped them on the line of scrimmage, but also there was a terrorist attack that week, and Georgia starting to back up quarterback. So, fingers crossed, none of the externals. But I just went and watched Penn State practice the other day, so probably some recency bias in my head, but I really think they're geared up. Like the wide receiver talent there more than I have. So I'll take Penn State. I'll roll the dice on James Franklin and company to get to the semifinals again. Oregon over Clemson is my pick in this game, whatever neutral site it's played at. That's the only flaw in this, that all these games are being played at neutral sites. Listen, Dan Lanning and that team got smoked when they finally played again last year. They had a first-round bye. Again, it matters that they experienced this. It matters to me. It matters what they learned. And without sharing state secrets, I sat in a room with Dan Lanning last week and talked to him in vivid detail about that experience, that Rose Bowl experience. How do you learn from that? Not just as a team, but as a staff, as a person, as a coach, how do you learn from it? Suffice it to say, I think they learned from it. I'm going to apply that theory here and pick them to beat Clemson. Next up, oh man, look at these matchups. Ohio State versus Alabama. I believe that the more multifaceted team here is going to win, and I believe that will be Alabama. Also, Alabama's rested in this scenario. And Kalen DeBoer has shown me the ability to win big games. Then again, so has Ryan Day. So it's just a good, hard-fought matchup there, but I'm taking Alabama to beat Ohio State. And Texas Notre Dame, yet again, just a Hall of Fame helmet game here. Very tough for me. This was the toughest one to pick. I'd say Georgia Penn State was really close in my mind, too. But I will take the Texas Longhorns to also advance to the semifinals there. Now, what have we arrived at? Well, we've arrived at ridiculousness. Because if you just listen to me on pod, or if you're watching on the screen, these matchups look awful familiar, don't they? They should, because they will have just happened 1 month ago. Because it is a rematch of the Big Ten championship game, and it is a rematch of the SEC championship game. Now, this is eventually going to happen. Might as well be this year. And by this, I mean you're going to have some matchup that happened in the regular season, and then it happens again in the conference title game, and then it happens again in the playoff. All right? So, in the interest of chaos, what have we seen? I think Penn State's going to beat Oregon in the regular season game. I also picked Penn State to beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Are you going to beat the same team 3 times in a year? My answer is no. My answer is no. Again, I like Dan Lanning having been there. I like their talent having gotten to this spot. and I believe that they can get the job done. And Oregon beats Penn State, and Penn State's sitting there saying, hold on, we took 2 out of 3. It's like the Nationals coming to town against the Braves. The Braves ain't taking 2 out of 3 from anyone this year. The Mets took 2 out of 3 from them. And they're looking, so wait, we still lost the series, though? How does that work? Well, it's college football playoff. That's how. This would be the death blow to conference championship games, by the way. Because can you imagine James Franklin and how red he is coming off the field, knowing full well we just had to play a team a third time. We've already beaten them twice. And because we happened to, we didn't complete the sweep, we're going home and they're going to the national championship game. I'm going to take Bama over Texas because again, Kalen DeBoer and big game theory, and that's going to apply in the national championship game too. That's not a third game, but that also would be a rematch of a conference championship game. I am always hesitant to even pick a team to double dip another team. But recent history showed me Georgia beat Texas twice. Regular season, conference championship game. So if I got Bama over Texas and Atlanta, I don't necessarily hesitate to pick them again. Again, I'm thinking about the secondary and the depth and quality of player for Alabama, and maybe Texas not facing that elsewhere in the year. It's shades of gray here. Could go either way. Oregon versus Alabama in the national championship game. If you've watched this show for a while, you know that I have famously crashed and burned picking Dan Lanning versus Kalen DeBoer games. I, again, very famously am 0-2 in those games. And I told myself, don't let this happen again. And then DeBoer left Washington. And I said, I don't have to worry about it. But here they are in the national championship game. And Kalen DeBoer is still himself, just probably with a more talented roster against Dan Lanning and Oregon. Dan Lanning and Oregon may get the job done. They eventually will. But I'm not going to have Kalen DeBoer dunk on me again and prove me wrong by going with Dan and then at the end of the day saying, man, Kalen DeBoer's pretty good. So if this is the matchup, I'm taking Alabama to win it all. So I'll take Alabama to win the national championship. And that completes my playoff predictions for this year. Remember our rule around here. We have never gotten a prediction wrong. I'm perfect all time in games that kids, coaches, and officials don't screw up. So either this is the way it's going to play out or someone else screwed up. And at that point, it's not my fault. It's not my fault that players don't execute the way they're supposed to. Coaches, don't focus the way they're supposed to, don't call plays the way they're supposed to. I mean, what Mike Bobo does or doesn't call is none of my business. It's not my fault, guys. So I just want the credit, none of the blame. Part B of the rule book around here, on a more serious note, is of course it's a long shot that this plays out according to plan. It's always a long shot. In fact, I don't think any bracket was perfect last year. That goes for me, but that goes for everyone else. So the rule around here is I'm happy to listen to you hate on my predictions as long as you give me yours. And make sure you give me your predictions not around Thanksgiving. Give me your predictions before kickoff happens for week 0. I will accept late submissions. I don't think many of you are picking Kansas State or Iowa State to win it all. God bless you if you are. I'll take submissions up until week 1. But I am not entertaining people that are hating on my bracket come December with revision, actually with hindsight on your side, and then come to find out, you never put your own predictions out there. No, that's the coward's way out. That's not returning your shopping cart. Don't leave it out in the parking lot. Those kinds of people are the same kind of people dunking on you in December for your playoff predictions, and then come to find out, so you didn't go out on the limb. You just made fun of me when I did, and it broke, and then I turned into street pizza on the ground.